Welcome to the Reinvent You Show. I'm George.
I'm Azlan. It's about seeing everyday challenges
Differently.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 13 of the Reinvent You Show.
You know, I'm in a good mood right now.
Oh, are you? And why is that?
I have no idea.
Oh, it must be my presence. It's the aura.
It's
the Azlan aura.
It's the aura ring.
This week's biohack.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, God.
Aslan's biohack of the week.
What I've learned this week was very interesting. It comes back to reframing limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And the exercise is very simple. Find one or two or three limiting beliefs that you have, stick it into AI and say, reframe this limiting belief. And then you put in quotes what the limiting belief is. So it can be anything from, I don't believe I can be a millionaire at 40. I feel like I should not be posting funny stuff on YouTube at 40. Whatever it is, just put it in there in the quotes. And what happens is ChatGPT or Grok will come up with a whole list of, I guess, affirmations that contradict, that reframes that limiting belief. And then what you do then is you take that and you slap a track on it and you put a voiceover on it so that it's your voice. And then you listen to it. But what it does is it reprograms your mind. So I listen to it with the music, because how you said music puts you into a state of trance. I do it every morning. I have got about 5 tracks now that I listen to, depending on my mood. And just leaning on neuroplasticity, reframe your beliefs.
Yeah, but did I put you in a good mood as I am right now?
It did.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Towards the end, as in it creeps in. Like
it creeps in.
You feel it actually changing you, and that's the whole point of the brain's gullibility. So, if the brain can believe lies and limiting beliefs that shouldn't have to be there, it will believe empowering beliefs, not because they're true, but because you created an environment where what the brain uses to think something is true works. You see?
Yeah.
Because like the point here is it's like, am I teaching the brain to know what's true? Not really. The brain never knows what's true. But you're giving it what you, in your own perspective of wisdom, know it needs to believe for it to be more functional and help you, achieve your purpose.
Yep.
So it's like a software program. A computer doesn't know what its programs are. It just runs them.
Yeah.
That's what the brain is like. So that's why it's so important for us to be the custodians, to be the programmers of what goes in that noggin.
I like that. I like what you said. A program just does what it's been told to do. And I noticed that as I listened more and more, I'm starting to believe it now.
Yeah.
And it's become my new mantra. Like, I can do this. This is great. This is easy.
Yeah.
I'm doing it at my own pace. I'm in it for the long run. All these things that it says to me. And there's always progress. You're progressing well. You're moving every week. I feel pumped at the end. I'm like, damn, life is great. So
yeah,
it's really worked for me. I hope it works for you too. One day, maybe I'll play an example. I'll put it actually in the chat, because
what a great idea.
And you guys can listen to it.
Drop an example for sure.
Boom.
Love it.
All right, so this week, my dad had to go for surgery. And, we had a good chat about life. And he told me, I sat down with him and I said, hey, Dad, if you had to do it all over again, would you have done the same thing? He worked in an oil and gas company, and then he branched out to start his own IT company when there was a dot-com boom. He started a printing business. He worked in that business for about 10 years, and then something happened with him and his business partner. Long story short, my father went bust. And I found out when I was going to the airport with him, and then the immigration department said, I'm sorry, you can't travel anymore. I was like, what's happening here? And anyway, long story short, he just vegetated at home. And I remember he was watching, cartoons in his underwear. And we thought, oh, this is it for him. He's done, And one thing happened was when we were driving back to our hometown, he was lecturing me about my studies and how, you shouldn't be wasting your mom's money, like partying in Melbourne. You need to come back. We're sort of tightening ourselves for you, and you're having fun and blowing all this money. And I reacted and I said, look at you. What has happened to you? You've ended up being nothing. I said that in the car.
Oh, that's Shazlan.
It was very sharp.
Remind me never to offend you. Damn.
But it was very, very crude and very, very brutal. And I remember he stopped the car, he cried. I said, look, I'm sorry. You know, you put me, I was put into a corner. I felt, I'm sorry.
There's a viper in you if you're back into a corner.
Yeah, yeah.
But wow, what a moment. That's pretty full on.
And what happened was he then went to his mom's grave, you know, because he was feeling really down. His mom, you know, it was we're in his town, right? 6 hours north of the city. And he sat down there and I left him alone. That went on for about 15, 20 minutes, quite long. And then, you know, I could see him sort of wiping his tears and stuff. We went back into the car and went about our merry ways. He sent me home and he went on his own thing. And he stumbled across a birdhouse, like a lots of shop lots. And there was stereos of like speakers, and it was bird calls. And then he saw birds flying in. There was no doors, there was no windows, but there was this bird sound kept going on. And so all of these birds were coming in from the roof. And he was watching that. And he was really intrigued by that at that trip. And he started looking around for more of these shop lots. And there were a few of them at the time doing the same thing. And he was wondering, what is this? Why are they building shop lots for birds to enter on the roof? It was this industry that was booming in Malaysia. It's a swiftlet bird's nest, right? What happened in China was they stopped eating shark fin soup because it was killing a lot of sharks. And so the Chinese government put a ban to it. And so the next best thing is this delicacy called bird's nest. It's literally a bird's nest that's been cleaned and processed. So it's hard. And then what you do is you melt it in like warm water and a bit of ginger, and then you drink it. And it's supposed to have like, you know, health benefits. And it's really a status symbol, you know.
Hang on. A bird's nest, as in the birds created the nest.
Using their saliva, a particular bird, a swiftlet.
Yeah.
And it's in the caves, you know, the birds in the caves.
But the thing is, the young birds poo in the nest.
Yeah, so they clean it as part of the processing.
Oh, that's good.
The
status symbol.
It's a status symbol, yeah, drinking birds' pee. But it is so interesting to see them clean the nest as well.
Yeah.
It's a separate topic. Essentially, they have to pick the feathers one by one out. They have rows and rows of people just picking the feathers out, trying to clean it, and then soaking it, and then drying it, and then cleaning it again until it becomes this white cup, like a cup like this.
Wow.
And each of them cost about $120 USD, like this. Just to drink it. Just melt it in warm water with ginger, and then drink it as delicacy.
So then what did your dad do when he learned about this?
So he started blogging about it.
Yeah.
Started blogging about it, and then he was addicted. It was like an addiction. I remember he started blogging every single night, and I could see his silhouette because the computer was in my room, and I could see his silhouette like, oh my God, he's still typing at 4 a.m. From 10 to 4, he'll be typing, so then his blog exploded. He was the number one swiftlet farming guy in Malaysia, consultant. And his name and his alias was Harry Cock. HARRYKOK. And people started calling him Harry. And my father does really weird stuff. And so he ended up being on the Times magazine as well for talking about swiftlet farming. And he started doing all these conferences, and he made it for himself. Wow. So he said, I wished I did this sooner, but he couldn't have done it sooner because the timing, everything had to fall in place.
But he prayed, he connected with the other side through the love of his mum.
Yeah.
And I think he went into an altered state, an intuitive state.
Yeah.
And it guided him to notice things around what would align to his passion.
That's right. And he was so brave into doing it because me and my brother, we were like...
That's pretty next level, like, what?
Yeah. And he inspired me. He basically, I want to do what he did, essentially, doing what you love and just having a good time.
Except you want to compete and be on the front page of Time
Not
Magazine.
really. No, I don't
Not
have those
really.
desires. I just want to be consistent. He was very consistent. Every single day posting, and he was just so consistent. I admired his consistency and his passion for the topic. And he told me before he went to surgery, he said, look, Azlan, just do something every morning that makes your heart smile and have a good time doing it. Don't waste your time chasing other people's dreams, you know. And he said, I would not have changed my path at all, you know. And I said, when did you change again? Like when? And he said 55. So I'm 40 now. Okay, I'm going to start 10 years earlier. Let's see where we get to.
I've got 5 more years of chilling.
Yeah, I've got 5 more years. And it was very interesting. He gave me some tips, you know, like not to care, because when he became bankrupt, he stopped caring. And that was his trigger to just go, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And I said, I don't have that luxury because I've got my family. And he said, you're giving yourself excuses. Don't give yourself excuses. Just start and promise me you'll post and make me laugh, you know, like when I'm recuperating. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And it's so interesting how I look up to him now as for my inspiration, when at the time I thought he was a pure loser, you know.
Wow, what a story. I love it.
And yeah, he's definitely
I don't think much highly of you, but I think great of your dad now.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Josh, for my self-esteem. But it's so interesting to hear like someone like that, you know, make it for themselves, make a name for themselves after, you know, such a
That's
tough
just
ordeal.
fascinating. I mean, I haven't even heard of this. What do you call it again?
Bird's nest, swiftlet farming.
Swiftlet.
Yeah.
Swiftlet farming. And so how did he make money out of that?
So as consultant, they were paying him cash, you know,
because he was their global marketing as a consultant?
No, he was just providing advice on what people were doing. They were building houses, and they needed to know, how do you design a bird's house? And so because he's so hardcore into it, he knows exactly the width, the humidity, the size of the hole that it needs to come in.
He exploded that industry.
Probably he did in Malaysia.
I think he did.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And people were paying him thousands of dollars per hour just to come and inspect their houses and say, did I do it right? And then he would go, no, you need to do this. And then he got someone else to help fix it.
Yeah, wow.
So it was stacked. And then he did conferences, which is what I want to do one day, you know, where people were paying, you know, to attend, to learn from him. And I remember, you know, he went from zero to a hero in my eyes.
Yeah.
And he was enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I always want that for myself. And I always look to him and go, he's the epitome of success for me, you know, doing something consistently, having a good time. And he was doing what he loved. He loved the paddy fields, you know, he loved being in nature, birds, you know, and he got his dream of building a bird's house next to I don't know what you call it in English, kabon. Kabon is like a farm where he had his acre land. He always wanted it. And he's planting his papaya trees, his durian trees, his, you know, jackfruit, everything, potatoes. It was his dream life. And I was like, God, man, that's so inspiring. I want to be like that one day. So,
you know, it shows you that as many people exist on the planet is as many pathways to brilliance, to an extraordinary life exist, because no one could have predicted this, you know, way your dad would do it. It was unique. It just popped out of nowhere, but it leaned deep into his passions, and it just created a wonderful pathway for him that he went all in on. And when we humble ourselves, you know, it's like when adversity hits, and I think you accidentally motivated your dad too, because you expressed your hurt and pain that you wanted your dad to be better and stronger and happier, and, you know, like, and you just vented. And I think that because you were his son, it hit him hard.
yeah.
And what it did was,
Well, it hit me hard as well.
yeah, and it made him not want to stay drifting and not caring. So you actually pushed him in the right direction just by being raw about your own inner pain, about seeing your dad lose his mojo, you know? And we think to ourselves, well, what is it going to take for us to look at the mirror closely to see the true damage of our limiting beliefs, our doubts, our drifting in life, our apathy, you know, not really seeing the magnitude of what we're doing, but what we're not doing.
The story with my dad didn't end there. So I then
Yeah.
wrote him a letter. Like, I said, I apologize, you're my hero, And then he read it, and then apparently he cried to my mom, and he said, you know what? They call me Ade, which is like a small brother. Get Ade a BMW, because my father is really stingy with money. Like, he wouldn't buy me a sharpener for 50 cents. I remember he was like, nah. But for him to say that, it came full circle, and now we have a great relationship. We talk a lot and we laugh. And
did your mum block the BMW purchase?
no,
she followed through.
No, they asked me, and she said, "Do you want it?" I said, "No, I don't want it." And they wanted to get me a Supra at the time. Remember, Fast and Furious came out.
Yeah.
My mom said, "Do you want a Supra instead?"
Your mum knew about that?
Yeah, and she said, "I'll sell one of the houses," because we had one.
She was willing to sell a house to buy you a car.
And I said, "Mom, no."
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
You're such a wise, loving son.
Well,
I take back my judgments on you at the beginning of the story.
no, there are people who I know who would say yes, but at the time, come on now. No, for a car. No, I won't.
No, I think it was the thought that really did count for you.
For sure.
It touched you deeply.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, we were going to talk about your struggles, I think from...
Yeah, let's talk about my struggles.
I think the question that I had was...
I was in a good mood. Now I'm going to be in bad mood.
No, let's change it. Let's look at where you are going. Like, I know, I have this view of me going into this whole social media side.
Yeah.
And I'm truly, genuinely excited about that, and upping my kit and my setup, and learning a bit more about video editing and talking to the camera and coming up with topics similar to Ali Abdaal and Marcus Brown, those YouTubers, and slowly getting there. So I'm excited about that. I feel like it's completely new, and I'm wondering what gets George excited about his future.
What gets George excited? Well, probably creating, innovating, developing technologies that will help people dig deeper into themselves, discover dimensions to themselves that they then can activate into living a very purposeful life. And the technologies are not about tech, it's about just innovative ways to get people to live life richly, meaningfully for themselves and their loved ones, and leave an impact. And how that happens, really enjoying the adventure of it. Like, if you look back, I went into a career after career knowing none of these careers were ever going to be my true career. But I let them happen because I thought I might as well be doing something, And I don't mind learning, and I don't mind, so I went in from retail furniture to radio, marketing and sales, and then in investment properties, and then investment properties as in helping develop culture and leadership in a company that was in investment properties. And then I launched my own business coaching. But my business coaching was more about mindset, leadership, work culture. That started to go into my career more. And it got to a point where I just wanted process to help people know that if they're at A, they need to understand where A is. So in other words, if you've got GPS coordinates to want to go somewhere, the GPS doesn't work if it doesn't know where you are. So know where you really are, know where B really is, know how to go from A to B. A to B being moving your mindset to B, moving your actions for the opposite equal reaction of traversing the distance, the gap between what you don't have to what you do have, like quality friends, a relationship, like whatever. It was always about A to B, a state that guarantees the content of what you want. You with me? And then somehow when I developed the systems 15 years ago around that, it dawned on me that when you get to systems levels, you can develop software, because software is facilitating those processes. And I had that moment where I went into a bit of a trance and I saw the software in my mind, and it just excited me, you know? But then I knew it was too premature because I hadn't really started the journey of testing my systems with people based on how much I evolved them. But none of what I was doing wasn't what I knew would work. I knew it was going to work because it was all reverse engineered anyway.
Right.
You know, so it wasn't like I made up stuff and I was curious. It was all reverse engineered. And so it was just a formality in my head that I would prove this stuff would work. And I did. But then I wanted to replicate it outside of me, because otherwise people would say, yeah, but George, maybe you're just a good coach. Maybe it's not really the systems. Maybe you're just a good coach. So then I trained coaches to do it. And I swear to you, their first clients were changing without me. Their first clients. It's still them in training, following my systems and my training, changing people's lives.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I knew the systems worked. Yeah. And then I knew from that we could now create a tech platform before AI even came around. So we started to move in that direction. So when you ask me where am I headed with all this, well, I think I'm just going to articulate, which I haven't really done maybe for a while, what my true hopes and dreams are for me, you know, which is I'd really love to be a go-to person, like your dad, like, you know, when you have your social media, for people who just love to learn and love to engage processes that manage their perception so that they make their dreams being realized inevitable. You see, it's one thing to learn knowledge, it's one thing to like what you're hearing, and it's another thing to apply as much as you can and hope for the best. It's another thing to follow steps that guarantee deconstructing your perception and seeing accidental self-harm to a level that shocks the brain into change.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I want to systemize that. And if I systemize that, it means people can have that on tap, consistent, to keep shocking the brain into meaningful alignment with their values, their purpose, right? And then, you know, I talk about supernova. Well, this thing can scale now to billions of people, and that's what we're working on. So my dream would be if I could develop this level of tech with so many applications in it that are exciting to engage, and it becomes such a popular go-to, this private, it's like having your own private cockpit where you manage your own life, your well-being, your goals, your productivity in all areas of your life, and it's yours. You log in, you discuss with AI simulated personalities with expertise. You deconstruct your own perception where you're stuck on any situation. You generate music. So you know when you talked about biohack, right? You know, reframe your beliefs and all that. I want to systemize this so that people don't have to be technical. It's just they're just responding to what they think, feel, and act, and then suddenly they're learning what they must believe, how that disconnects from their own wisdom, and then suddenly lyrics are produced and music is produced with their favorite type of style of music and singer kind of time, whatever, and now they've got their own music they're listening to about their life transforming. Then we'll add applications like VR and have like an Apple store, have all these applications be built into the platform of people around the world getting creative on how to help you manage your perception in our platform with all these new ideas of applications that plug in. For example, your wearables plug in, you know, like lots of cool stuff just plugs in.
Right. So developing an entire platform, not just an app, but like literally an ecosystem.
An ecosystem platform. So that's my passion. That's my excitement. That's why I called it Supernova. Otherwise, I would have just called it Star. But yeah, that's my passion. And if I then get interviewed by all these people who are fascinated by the platform and the change and the difference it's making en masse to organizations, even governments, because it's like, what's more precious to a country, to an organization, than to dignify every individual, and for the cost of crumbs per month, give them levels of powerful knowledge calibrated to rewire their brains into alignment with what their heart wants, with what their better judgment knows, with how they want to live their life, so that they can be great for themselves, great for the people they care about, great for their role at work, great for, the reality they want to create to move into. And suddenly everybody is being empowered. It's like democratizing the most pure, the most potent knowledge that exists on the planet, and collapsing the timeline so that you could be sitting in a room with Albert Einstein's body of work with his personality, sitting in the room with Prince, his body work and his personality, and you could be talking about your own dreams to be a musician, your own dreams to understand physics, or I just love that idea of any young person suddenly is equipped with all these tools to honor and dignify their dreams and who they are.
That is amazing. I am so interested in your journey to get there, because I realize in my own journey that I feel like I don't know a few things. Like for you went from, you're going deep into tech, into AI. And I bet you along those milestones, you go, okay, how am I supposed to use this? How am I supposed to use that? Am I doing it right? Like, for me as well with my kid, my style of editing, I'm like, is this right? Is this wrong? And the only way to get better is to be consistent. There is no other way. Like if you do it for like 2 weeks, it's not gonna stick. You're not gonna learn. But it's the consistency of every week we're meeting and I'm editing and I'm grinding and just trying to understand, okay, why is this? Why is that? But for you, like, you've got, this is a business, right? So you've got a partner as well. So that keeps you going.
We've got shareholders and...
Right.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stakeholders.
Exciting.
And it's unfolding. We're about to get a quote today or tomorrow on the build of the minimal viable product for organizations, and then the actual bigger launch with all these components built in the first version.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so we're getting the quote and then finalize the investor docs, and off we go, talking to investors about this dream. But the good thing is we've already built a pocket coach that actually does reconstruct your perception. So we already know, and we've already tested it on corporations with execs to see how they experience it and their feedback. So we've done a lot of R&D already, and now we want to run pilot programs in organizations who can select their early adopters and their leaders to saddle up into this pocket coach experience.
Yeah.
And start managing their perception and watching their own data and deal with issues and have breakthroughs, and it'll be pretty cool.
You talked a bit about trusting your journey, right? So was there a logical point for you during this whole journey to go, I'm going to develop AI, or was it just a logical path where it was the next logical step? Like you said, you were training people, your coaches.
No, I was very naive. I backed in. I didn't even know AI was going to land with LLMs the way it did. And I had no idea that the way LLMs were going to work and how advanced they were going to literally be the wave that I was waxing a surfboard for.
Right.
Like, I can't claim that I had this genius vision crystal clear. But I will claim that I had a sense of knowing that just made me trust to keep building what I was building, and it was going to go there. And so,
Bingo.
yeah, it's this intuition. You know, when you feel something, but you can't consciously see it as clearly, but you know enough, you feel enough to keep going in that direction. It takes a lot of faith, but also it's a process. And the key in the process is that, are you developing value with what you're doing in the here and now? If not, then find a way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then from that value, is that a stepping stone to the next level of value? And so that's why, you know, when I was initially a coach, it was me. But then I went, okay, but what is the process to truly change a mind, shift a mind into new habits? And then I developed the systems, and then I tested them, and then they worked. And then, so I see value. See, it's like, that's meaningful. That alone is meaningful. Can I get people to do it as coaches, to do it for others without me being involved? Yes, that was value. That's scaling, you know. But there was a big problem. Each one had its problems. And that problem was there was too much cognitive effort for the coach to facilitate the systems. I flexed my cognitive ability so much and had so much practice. I was like a freaking ninja at this shit, you know? And I just assumed others would be able to turn on that. And I watched them consciously put the effort and get results. But then their brain goes, that's a lot of effort, man. Maybe I don't know if I want to do that every day with clients. So I watch coaches get results, but then back away from taking on too many clients. And then I look, and then I learn a lot from that. I thought, well, it's scalable from process, but it's not scalable from brawn effort. It's too much. And so meanwhile, AI is coming, you see. Now, you saw from your own experience how I used AI to generate subconscious beliefs and principles reports. Now I know I'm finally going to give coaches and clients the power of getting to where they were getting to without me being the bottleneck or have to do the work manually. And then me trying to get coaches to exhaust themselves in the brain, because it's a lot of processing.
Yeah.
You see, you can't just hold a thought, a well-articulated thought from a well-articulated circumstance, to then connect to maybe 4 or 5 key emotions that create an emotional state that comes from that thought, to then map the beliefs, right? To then map the typical behavior of someone thinking and feeling that way, to then uncover the underlying typical circumstances that are hiding that make someone think that way, feel that way, and behave that way. And then do a principled report on each principle in a body of principles to compare and analyze how that principle is not being aligned to, if it's a disembowel. That's a lot of brain work to do that. A lot of,
even you telling me, I was almost going to zone out.
See, he almost
even though I've
out.
been through, even though I've been through the process.
Yeah. But you just went for the ride, and you watched it. You watched it happen. You were just reacting to my questions.
Yeah.
But I was doing the work.
Yeah.
But thankfully, by the time you did it, I was using AI.
Yeah.
And now I do 20 times as much work with 20% of the effort. Like, it's so good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, but LLMs are very limiting. Like, for example, I need to do a public correction on not all stars become black holes, only very big ones apparently. And even then, it's conditional on variables. So a physicist was explaining it to me, that it's not that cut and dry that every star becomes a black hole, blah, blah, blah. Because here I am attached to Supernova OS. I love the brand. I love the vibration of that brand name. And then here my bubble's bursting because we were talking about the beauty of giving and receiving and the fractal. Having said that, you did make a good point that we are all big stars. And a star and the star and the black hole are the archetypes of giving and receiving. And therefore, we can learn a lot about the supernova of a world where black holes and stars are about. Our true power is expressing both giving and receiving. And then teaching the wisdom of that giving and receiving, because we're not good at giving and receiving. Either we're giving too much and spoiling, or being petty, not giving anything because we're afraid we don't have enough. We block receiving because we're so afraid of being indebted to anyone, no matter how much we busted our butt to be of value to someone. When they go to reciprocate, we're shutting it down, you know? Or we just keep begging and expecting everyone to save us because we're not taking responsibility to create ourselves and have a healthy reciprocation. So we are just not good at balancing and creating the sustainable value exchange of that giving and receiving. So I think there is massive wisdom in the supernova that happens. And so I think this tech platform being called Supernova is about, imagine if the dream is to empower billions to learn how to give and receive sustainably.
Beautiful.
What would the planet look like?
I know I would have changed a lot if I could do that at an early age. I blocked so many opportunities because I could not receive.
Me too.
Until my mother-in-law, my godmother, pulled me over the corner and said, just receive what I want to give you. Really. I was so cautious of not burdening her. She's uber rich. Yeah. And I'm talking like uber rich. Yeah. And she wanted to buy me trips. She said, pass me your passport. Let's just go here and there. I said, no, sorry. Yeah. And then what happened was we all in the club and she would have the driver pick all of us up, right? Yeah. In a van. And I said, oh, no, it's okay. I'll walk. I'll take the cab. And it's like, Azlan, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'll just, no, I don't want to burden you guys. You guys go ahead. And like I was close to her, whereas these other people would not as close. The next morning, she spoke to me. She had to give you a lecture. Oh, she gave me a lecture.
You deserved it.
She said, why can't you just receive what I want to give you? You're a nice kid, and I want to give you, but you don't want to take it.
You block it.
Yeah, so I didn't complete the cycle, and I went, he said, just take it. And then take it, if you can, one favor for me is receive it graciously. That's all. And I went.
And you went, conditions. Forget it. The deal's off.
But it was a big.
I will receive without grace, or not receive at all.
And I remember, and I always received with grace. I always said, thank you so much for dinner. I mean, and that's how I grew up. And so when I received, whenever she bought for me, I always made an effort to say, thank you so much for this thing. The dinner was crazy, man. You know, when you receive it so graciously, and I know that for my son as well, when he receives graciously, thank you, you know, it was so yummy. Wow. Completes the cycle, you know, you're like, woo! So I get what you're saying. And I think that's great that you have that vision. But one thing I'm also interested in your path is at every time, because I'm experiencing this for myself with my reinventing. Yeah. There are parts where you just go, I don't know, maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe
those moments. Because we want to bring it back full circle to the struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about that.
Like
you want to talk about my dark side of doubts?
Yes, please. Because I don't see you as a person who
has doubts.
Who has visible doubts.
Oh, yeah. No, I hide them because there's a lot of shame in having doubts. I preach work in progress, but I don't apply that to myself.
No, I'm really interested in because I'm going through that now. Let me explain to you my philosophy. Yeah. I'm like a banana tree, let's say. Okay. I see this pear tree, social media. And I want to dabble into that. I've got banana fruits, banana leaves. Yeah. But I want to be this small and neat pear tree. You know? And so what I realize is when I dabble in here, I get shaky, and then I go, oh, this is not for me. I go back to what's comfortable.
Ah, yeah, gotcha.
And it's not because of this thing. I'm not consistent because I feel. Yeah. So then I thought about my roots. Maybe I have to change my roots. Because then I can, or either I graft myself onto that tree. But essentially what I'm saying is, why don't I feel that I can be this pear tree? It's because I feel like deep inside, and that's what you're helping me transform, is the idea of value and meaning.
And your identity.
And your identity. And so it feels really shaky here. And sometimes I always ask myself, is this really, am I built for this, really?
So you know what we talk about, limiting beliefs?
Yep.
Limiting belief number one is containing yourself into one type of tree. All right? And then limiting belief number two is thinking you have to choose between that tree or another tree.
Ooh.
Or you're forced to collect attributes of both grafting, right? But what if the ideas in a tree and another tree and what makes them different, what makes them similar, and the forest and the mountains and the rivers and the valleys, what if it was just all ideas and you were designed to build at the idea level, not at the manufactured organism level that's evolved to something down the track? Because you've inherited the banana tree as, a good metaphor of a banana tree, and the whole point of entity politics was, come on, man, you're an entity.
You're not the banana tree.
I don't know how to break this gently to you. Azlan, you are not a banana tree. Maybe you need therapy for this. This podcast is not going to be enough to help you.
No, I need more help than I thought.
This banana entity identity.
I knew you were going to say that.
I identify with a banana.
I deserve that. Okay,
of course you deserved it.
I get
banana man.
I get what you mean. We are the entity. No. Banana. I used to have a friend who used to sing that to me.
Really?
Yeah. Nana, banana, banana, fofana.
Benny, Buberi, Fafana, Feri, Fuferi.
Yeah, and then it keeps going. But it's my name.
I made up a whole song using that and just literally went through the whole alphabet instead just to make a fun children's song.
No way.
Yeah. That's really funny. You should say that.
Banana, fofana, fi, fofana.
Yeah, similar to that, but I just made up my own version of that. That's really interesting. Anyway, going back to the serious
entity.
The entity. Like, look, why do I call... See, I don't say limiting beliefs normally. I just call them ideas. Ideas are assumptions. Any idea you come up with, you look closely at it, it's already got ideas in relationship with one another. Remember step 3, imagination, deconstructing ideas.
Yeah.
So for example, if you go brushing teeth is a good idea, well, yeah, but there's already ideas like toothpaste, the brush, the teeth, all these ideas come together, and then including the foam, the minerals, everything breaks down to how the full ecosystem of that idea of brushing teeth. You with me?
Got it.
Plaque being ground down, all this sort of stuff, right? So every idea you can break it down, even down a mineral, you can break that down to subatomic particles that make up the molecules that make up that particular mineral.
Okay.
Everything just keeps breaking down, right? Yeah. The point here is ideas like Lego pieces. If we're playing Lego, right, and you have individual pieces, you can make anything.
Yeah.
But if I've already built pre-manufactured walls and structures and I go, there you go, you're not allowed to break down those to individual Legos. You can only build from those. Now you're restricted. You can still be creative, but you're restricted by the prefabricated limitations of the shapes that and structures that I've given you.
Right.
Now, you're not designed to be forced into that prefabrication. You are designed to question any structure, deconstruct it down to individual Lego blocks, dismantle any of them, and reshape it any way you like.
In other words, that banana tree has to go.
So, do you remember the song Meaning Maker?
Yeah.
That's how you recreate a meaningful life, because you're not inheriting the paradigm of dogmas where you feel that you're a banana tree. You see? Like you said to me, oh, George, apple, pear tree, but the banana tree issue. And I'm going, yeah, because your brain is wired to make you think you are a specific identity, and it's made you think that the other thing is another specific identity, and that your path from A to B is to somehow stop being one so you can be more of the other, to be accepted, right? What I would say to you is look closer. Look closer at the individual blocks that make the banana tree and make the apple tree, and you'll notice it's all presumptions. It's all just loaded assumptions that don't have to be there.
That's what I was about to say. They're all assumptions. So the assumptions are the building blocks
to
make you into what you think you are.
That's
so
right.
all this is about deconstructing those assumptions.
That's right. And the brain is an assumption machine. Associations are assumptions. You're associating an idea with another idea. The brain wires ideas together for you to create the texture of how you relate to something. Your raised voice might make me feel judgmental and anxious because I think a raised voice is leading to violence. Your raised voice may make me feel, oh my gosh, you don't feel heard. I'm going to lean in and give you compassion.
Right.
And I'm going to create loyalty and companionship with you.
Got it.
See how those two assumptions created a fight and an enemy or a loyal friend.
Ooh.
Assumptions are what shape and create reality. But when you're a kid and you're told by everyone, you're a banana tree, you're a banana tree, you're a banana tree, you're not a pear tree, you're not a pear tree. And then, we're just kids. We're just like, okay, then. And the brain's just being immersed and told. It's been programmed. And the neurons come and they go, I'm a banana tree. A banana tree is me, is who I am, identity. It's like we're just being brainwashed into who we are, culturally, everything.
So then how do you identify which assumptions are blocking you? This is through the deconstruct, isn't it? Through think, act, and feel.
Work backwards. Where's the pain? Where does the heart feel dissatisfied? Where does it feel disconnected? Where do you feel you're numbing yourself because you're sick of being hurt? You got to feel pain again. So part of our problem is we block the pain through self-medication and through prescription medication instead of using pain to understand what assumptions do not serve.
Ooh, that is so good. Because nobody wants to revisit the pain because it feels like...
Who wants pain? But you know that saying, no pain, no gain? In balance, it's very powerful because the pain talks. You can decode pain. And emotional pain is about purpose. It's about connection and your sustainable value exchange. So, you work backwards from the pain. But half the battle is people are in the habit of not even feeling the pain anymore.
Not wanting to even go near the pain.
That's scary. That's like putting a glass between you and your heart so you can't even reach what your heart feels and wants. Like a glass wall saying, no, I'm sick of my heart being hurt, so I'm just not going to feel it anymore. We need to feel again.
How did you traverse that during your growth to where you're at now? Like we talked about your struggles. Like where?
With great difficulty.
Were you alone the entire time?
I did feel alone for a while because it was like there was no one around me to talk about this stuff. And then even when I learned enough, interesting esoteric knowledge and I started to think of us beyond an identity from an entity, I still was kind of alone. I had a few friends that were fascinated by it, and I swear to you, we'd go to clubbing, then we'd leave the club at say 1 or 2 in the morning. We'd go park somewhere, and we would have deep philosophical talks about the meaning of life for 2-3 hours.
Wow!
Instead of clubbing.
It's really bizarre.
Yeah, I know, because it was a passion. It's like we wanted to understand life, what makes it meaningful. And also, we did not like the idea that we were in our own reality bubble of a status, of a class of person. You know what I mean? Like, I hated the pecking order. I'm actually offended by the idea that there are higher levels of people and lower levels of people. It's like, what? It's like, and then they have to sell us that people are genetically gifted. I'm sorry, genes has a role, but so does epigenetics. All right, we already know this. This has happened. You take 2 children, one from a rich family, one from a poor family. You swap them at birth. The person will grow up in the rich family and think like them, and then their genes will somehow activate gifts because the environment says you I know you're capable and you can. And the rich guy will just be constantly in the toxic limiting beliefs of that environment that tells them life is hard and people are bullying and harassing and all that. And then they grow up very different. So the point here is, where is the responsibility for governments, for education to say your environment is critical to who you become? If you're in a banana plantation, it doesn't matter if you're an apple tree, you're going to go, all I see is bananas. And because you were designed to evolve, you'll evolve into a banana, a tree as well.
Right.
Because everything keeps telling you you're in banana land. You know what I mean?
I love this banana tree.
Yeah, so do I. It's very nice. I'm glad you came up with it. Anyway, we regress. I was going to talk about my struggle.
Yeah, so I was asking you whether you were alone throughout your struggle. At what point did you have a point where you went, oh, what is this assumption here? I need to deconstruct this and then move forward?
Yeah, because I didn't know how to deconstruct. All I knew was I would be thinking about things that pissed me off. But and I remember creating perspective on it as best as I could based on what I was learning. But I didn't know how to shock myself enough through a deconstruct. You see, okay, let me explain the difference between the two. When you are thinking about something, you're entertaining ideas that are good, and you are entertaining that some of your ideas are bad, okay? If the brain is given this awareness, it goes, oh, we may be wrong about some things. That might be right. It sounds nice to think differently there. But that's not compelling for a brain to change. At that point, it's entertaining that there may be a truth, and that maybe the truth it thinks it has, is not true. It's entertaining.
Right.
Right? So the subconscious doesn't recalibrate. It's why you can think you've made a decision to change, and you don't. Right? It's because the subconscious needs a better engagement, a more compelling facilitation of how those ideas that are posing as truth are actually catastrophically wrong and causing self-harm. You can't give the brain the opinion.
Yeah.
You have to give it all the facts, all the data interconnected around it, so the brain goes, oh shit, that's wrong. And it has a visceral reaction.
Yeah.
And that's, for us, it's shock and it rewires. So the deconstruct happened much later, only 15 years ago, properly, with me sitting with what were the times where I changed, and what were the times where whatever I learned actually did change me. And I studied that, and I wanted to know the exact process, and that's how the deconstruct happened. And it coincidentally did align with CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, but because I looked at the individual blocks of Legos, I was able to see a more robust, structured, systematic way to do it properly, more deeply, than this ad hoc, oh, tell me what you feel, do you agree with that? Like a psychologist will do a good job of letting you sit with what your thoughts, feelings, what you're doing is, and then it will facilitate you into an observer of that, right? It doesn't really take you into what are the deeper underlying assumptions that make you think, feel, act that way. It will try to get you to be as conscious as possible with the right questions to kind of pepper around it. And it does help. So CBT is known to be very impactful, but it doesn't go deep. And then it doesn't run a principle analysis to show you that the things you know are universally true, you are at odds with. And it gives you 52 points of reference of that. So the brain goes, oh my gosh, I was never going to win. I literally trashed my entire wisdom that's universal off these dumb assumptions to block my own wisdom, right? I didn't have that until 15 years ago.
But that not having helped you develop it, right? Like it fueled you to go,
it's true, because I got frustrated because 10 years of spending 150 grand on my personal development, I got sick of damming up with knowledge and not translating enough of it into my habits and into seeing the life differently enough to create more of what I knew I could create in reality. You see?
Well, I think everybody can resonate
I
with
got
that.
sick of that.
Yeah.
It's like sick of knowing better. And so that's what happened 15 years ago. Do I have regrets? No. Do I have regrets that I ran away from my dreams for decades, not knowing I was running away? I thought I was making legitimate, responsible decisions to not put myself into positions where I was trying to achieve when I really wasn't that capable. I thought I was being smart. I thought I was being practical to only go after things I could succeed in. And because I didn't have a history with family in music, I didn't go there.
Right.
I avoided it. And then my best friend had to talk me into doing music at school. And then later, I forgot all about music, even though I had this ache in my heart and to want to write lyrics. And, you know the story. But the point is, I just kept running away from my dreams for decades.
Because of false assumptions.
Because of assumptions that I'm a banana tree, like you. And I don't know how to be the pear tree for that music dream, for that film directing dream, for that, like it's the same thing, isn't it? And I think everyone now is thinking, shit, I think I'm a banana tree too, in certain areas of my life, thinking I need to be another tree. And so what I'm saying is, no. Just walk away from the banana tree slowly.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's manufactured. Keep the aspects you like the potassium and and the nice flavor of the tree.
I'm on this journey as well of with growth
Totally.
when you're reinventing yourself, you're sort of like dabbling in the dark.
Exactly.
You don't know what the hell you're doing,
Exactly.
and you just I trust this, I trust that, and so I hope what people will see is this. In my channel, I have so many things that I'm dabbling in, and people often say, "Azlan, it's your ADHD," but it's not. It is me trying to find my way, reinventing myself, to see, because I feel like I'm a motivator. I am an uplifter by nature.
Yeah.
I've always been like this to my son, to my wife, to everybody.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can't do it online because who am I? And so I'm going through this journey of I'm going to change all of this banana tree concept and look at all of my strengths and all the false assumptions that go, maybe because I don't speak eloquently. Okay, then how am I going to speak eloquently? A teleprompter. How am I going to do this, that? I just made it to a point where I have no more excuses, and then with the reframing of the assumptions. So I feel like I can relate when you're talking about this stuff, because it's quite scary, man. Like it is nerve-wracking stuff, especially when you're a bit older.
Yeah.
And my father went through that. You went through that. So I'm always curious about your process. And did you feel like giving up at one stage, going, you know what, this is full of shit. I should probably stop. What am I doing dabbling in tech?
Yeah. I wrote a song about dreams, my dreams. We should play it because that was my therapy. Actually, did I tell you about that? Where I initially set out and I went, oh my gosh, what if I die and my dreams don't come true?
Right.
See?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I had to face that.
Gosh.
Because that was a fear. That was a pain.
At what age, can I ask?
5 months ago.
Oh. That was pretty recent.
Actually, there might be 3 months ago. But I had to face it because sometimes you hit these roadblocks and you don't actually see a way through. And you think to yourself, you go, hang on a minute. It might never happen. And you have to then think, so basically I'll die, pop out of my body, because I do believe in an afterlife. And I'll look at my body and I have a light review. They call it a light review, where apparently you're reviewing your entire life and how you impacted people and how they impacted you and what you did and what you didn't do and what you missed out on, all this sort of stuff. And then you go, damn it, I missed all these opportunities. And so I have a light review and I go, really? You were coaching people to be empowered with purpose and you missed 99% of the richness of assumptions around you to connect to make you flow and make your dreams come true? Really? What a charlatan to yourself you were.
I'll be nice to yourself, George.
You know, you were talking about blind spots and glass ceilings and reverse engineering pain points and dealing with apathy and undoing numbness. And here you were numb to your own pain and not knowing that you were numb to your numbness. You outsmarted yourself. You told everyone to be a work in progress, and then you discovered you needed to be a work in progress at being a work in progress. Then you discovered you needed to be a work in progress at being a work in progress at being a work in progress. You know what? You just outsmarted yourself, didn't you? Your ego just kept capturing whatever you caught up to and repackaging it to once again rinse and repeat your bullshit. And now you died. And you didn't realize your big dreams to really help humanity because you couldn't even help yourself.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful moment. I mean, I think
No, I just had it now.
Oh. No, I think it takes a lot of courage for someone to come to that conclusion about themselves, really like peeling off.
Yeah.
So it's
and it's slippery.
Yeah.
Because if I'm too much of a work in progress, I give myself too much of a easy leeway.
Yeah.
If then I swing the other way, I've lost the work in progress. So it's kind of like even balance. If I think balance is my magic silver bullet and I overdo balance, I lose the reference points.
Yep.
And life can get too controlled and boring. Isn't that interesting? There's an exception to every rule. And I find that fascinating. An exception to every rule means it doesn't matter what body of work I've created, what systems I've created.
Yep.
There's an exception to every rule, which is, I think, you and me and everyone else. We are the exceptions to every rule. We, with our free will, can outsmart any beautiful, elegant system, any good idea, and we can find a way to fail. We can find a way to block ourselves. And at some point, it's not about finding what's right. It's about daring to believe that you just matter and you no longer need any more evidence. Imagine the audacity of deciding that you are loved into eternity because nothing in the invisible that made you exist the way you do and perpetually exist with free will, imagination, intuition, blah, blah, blah. Nothing that can be that intelligent and powerful would be that petty and dumb. And that even your insistence that it could be petty and dumb would mean your free will would create that reality. So yes, you're in a reality bubble where the universe is petty and dumb and God doesn't care, then you can live it. And you can live it for as long as you want. I don't think it's about right or wrong anymore. I think it's about choice. It's like at some point we have to be defined. We have to choose the hill we die on. And I want to die on a hill where I've arrived at a place where I'm no longer defined by people's perceptions and my achievements. I want to outgrow both.
I'd be really interested to know for everybody which hill would you guys like to die on? Because that's such a powerful question.
Yeah.
Because interesting.
I know.
Interesting.
You're allowed to change your mind too. Oh shit! Wrong hill.
Actually, that's a very interesting question. Which hill would I like to die on? I would like to die on a hill knowing that I followed everything that I felt was fun. Like never ever saying, "Oh, that's fun." No, I'm not going to do it because
I dig that hill.
You know,
that's a good hill.
It's imagine.
I'll die on that hill as well.
We can hold hands on two hills. That's really small hills, steep hills.
They're really close to each other.
Yeah. It's such an interesting question. So yeah, I mean, very very. When we talk about reinventing ourselves, it's such an interesting thing. It's a lot of my friends as well are talking about, Azlan, I don't know if I can do this. And, they go through that whole assumption that I'm not good enough to get them to, well, not to say I'm not good enough, but I do not know the techniques at the moment to do a deconstruct. But I always tell them about how this is the assumptions, the beliefs that they hold, and how they've repeated them to themselves through observation, through internal talk, through.
I've got a great idea.
Really,
let's do our own men's circle where everyone will pay $30 and all that money will go into buying tomahawks and we'll
the tomahawks,
and we'll have a carnivore get together, tomahawks and red wine, and we'll just talk about unpacking the banana trees.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a great idea. Anybody wants to join us, put in the comment, and then
maybe we can call it the Tomahawk Men's Group.
Yeah, now that'll be interesting. Although I'm not sure if I'm good. If my wife would like the idea of 10 men in my house, 10 strangers. We can always bring it. We can always bring
have
the
to have it at your house.
Yeah,
we can do it at my place.
Yeah, cool.
In the hills, and I've got a smoker and I've got the gear.
Oh, really? Look at George, the barbecue extraordinaire.
Yeah, I did the tomahawk and I did the brisket and
I did not know
12
that.
hours. And then I got the thermometers and the app and controlling
the
everything.
meter hooks.
And I've got a fan that controls the heat in the smoker.
Gosh, this guy.
Yeah.
Overachiever. Look at him. I thought I was an overachiever. This guy's next level. He's got the fan.
Passion. Well, I think we're foodies. We do like quality, But anyway, going back to, I initially set out when I was writing the lyrics of my dreams, is that I just wanted to vent my fears and I wanted to confront them and I wanted to create an inner peace with the fact that maybe my dreams will never come true. Right? I've had many dreams come true, but the bigger ones, the ones that I feel would be the most exhilarating and meaningful, that would make me cry with pride looking back on my life on my deathbed, right? And I remember sitting out and I wrote the first verse and then the bridge chorus and then the second verse. And I swear to you, I didn't know where it was going, but I knew that I had to keep expressing what was coming to me. And then in the 2/3 into the song, through the middle 8 and then through the last verse, I landed somewhere really meaningful and special. And it was, the true dream is learning to be me. And that's why it can't die with me, because it is me.
Whoa. Let me try to deconstruct that.
Yeah.
Learning to be me.
Yeah. So beyond the banana tree, finding that beautiful dimension of you that allows you to flow from identity to identity, reality to reality, and realizing that no one reality defines you. Not one reality is about whether you are meaningful and worthy and successful or not. They are all for the sheer experience. And then if there's anything you want, is it to be the wish from the genie or the genie? And so me going home into me, knowing I'm the genie, right? I'm going to tell you a story. Are you ready for a story?
I'm ready for a story. And I like what you just said, because I was just about to ask, learning to be me or knowing who I am? Because technically what you said about how you want to know that you are this entity that can swap between identities, that's what our true selves are. I mean, that's...
Yeah. I honestly think the whole pronoun thing was a misguided chase for something deeper.
Yeah.
Which is, we can't be our sex. We can't be our biological bodies.
Yeah,
I reckon there's a truth there, and the pronoun world was just people disenfranchised by the identities they were being raised with, and then suddenly they thought that the biological sex became an issue. We touched on this in the previous podcast. Anyway, coming back to the story.
The story.
Yeah. one day there was this young man, Aladdin, and he was walking along this beautiful coastline, and he heard this rumble and sloshing and crying out from what seemed to be an older man. And he kept trying to figure out where it was coming from because the waves were crashing, and he's trying to where is that sound coming from? Mm-hmm. And he couldn't see anyone on the shore. And then he looked and he saw a cave. And so he walked towards the cave and the sound got louder. And then he walks into the mouth of the cave and he sees in the distance, deep into the cave, this thing moving. And as he got closer, it was a wine barrel. And then he noticed that the wine barrel, someone was in it, yelling, "Help!" but slurring his words and cussing. And so he thought, oh my gosh, I have to save this person. So he popped the lid open with a bar, and a guy sees the lid open, gets excited, the barrel flips, all this wine falls out. The guy is half cut from drinking the wine in the barrel. I guess that's what you do if you're trapped. In a cave. If I'm going to go, this is where I'm going to go. Well. And the young man goes, "What's wrong? Why are you here? What happened to you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a genie, and you've released me." And he goes, "What?" "Yeah, you get to have 3 wishes. It's like, what? 3 wishes? Yes, but only 3 wishes. And you can't wish for more wishes, you greedy humans. It's like, but who are you? I'm the genie. That's all you need to know. But because you only get 3 wishes, you need to go. Leave now and seriously think about these 3 wishes. And then come back to me. And I will make them come true." Oh, wow. So this young man, Aladdin, was freaked out. He's walked out, just mesmerized by the idea that he's got 3 wishes. So off he goes, trying to think of what these wishes are. The man was relieved because he was a pirate, and his pirate mates locked him in that barrel to teach him a lesson for annoying them. And he lied to get that boy off his back. So then the young man, first as he's walking back to the village, goes, "Oh, my first wish is I really want love. I really want a partner. I want my princess." He goes, "But I've got to make sure that whatever I wish for in a relationship, a life partnership, that I'm really clear what I'm wishing for, because I don't want to end up with someone that isn't right for me." So he thinks, okay, I'm going to pay attention to the relationships around the village. I want to learn. I want to understand what makes a relationship great so that when I wish, I'm going to wish for an amazing relationship.
Right.
So he goes in and he starts to notice the couples, and some couples are arguing with each other, and he's going, "Oh, that can't be right, a relationship when they're arguing." So he started to interview these couples, and these couples, they argued with each other, they sledged each other, but he noticed that there was a fondness between them. And so he started to ask them, "How is it that you guys argue but still love each other?" And now he's learning about the depth of commitment, the depth of being a work in progress in a relationship. So he's going from one couple to another, just learning and learning how they make their relationship work. Meanwhile, the princess is actually disguised because she doesn't want anyone to know she's a princess, because she'd get too much attention. She notices this young man, how devoted he was to learning what makes a relationship meaningful, because he genuinely wanted a life partnership. And she would listen to the types of questions he asked and the answers that were being shared and his responses. And she just felt this welling up of gratitude that she's met a young man that's real, that she would want to explore whether they could commit to each other. And by the time he talked to dozens of couples, she just thought, that's it, I'm going to go and introduce myself. And she walked up to him, but at that point, he had reached this level of clarity around what relationship he could now wish for. And he beelined it back to the cave.
So did she introduce herself? She didn't. She didn't get the
As
chance.
she's walking up to him, he's left.
Right. Okay.
So now he gets to the cave. He marched fast, this young man. He gets to the cave. He turns and he sees the genie, the so-called genie. Yeah. And the genie, this pirate forgot all about the fact that he fobbed off this kid. And he's come back and he says, Genie, I'm ready for my first wish. And the pirate goes, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? And he just stood stunned going, I'm stuck. How am I going to, make this wish come true? And the young man breaks into the most eloquent speech about the relationship he will commit to and defining what love is, what loyalty is, what resilience is.
Yeah.
And by the time he finishes this eloquent speech, that young woman caught up. She was following him. And she gets to the mouth of the cave, accidentally kicks a rock, makes a sound. He turns around. She's there, silhouetted beautifully. The wish came true. And the pirate is just gobsmacked. He doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
And young Aladdin says to the genie pirate, oh my gosh, thank you. You're so fast. That was amazing. I didn't know what to say. And he ran to her and, hi. She says, hi. I'd like to get to know you. And they started to date. And that wish was coming true. Then Aladdin was walking, and I will cut to the part where he ended up in stormy waters and he was almost drowning. And he realized that second wish was he needed to survive that storm. Otherwise, it's all over. So he made a wish that he could swim and get to safety. When he made that wish, because he already lived in the power of knowing his wishes come true, he calmed down. And in his calming, his intuition took over. And now he was part of the water. It wasn't against him. And he flowed with the water and he got to safety because his instincts were always there to guide him. It was his panic that was drowning him, his lack of self-belief, his disconnection to his body, his ability to flow. So then he comes out, and once again, he gives the pirate the benefit of making the second wish come true. And the pirate is once again confused as hell. All these wishes are coming true. And he's not doing nothing. Now, eventually, rumors started spreading around about a pirate being spotted. And it alerted Aladdin, and he goes, how could this be true? How could this genie not be a genie when I know he's made two of my wishes come true? And so he started to look and study, what is it about this guy that makes him interesting? So he started to observe him without him knowing. And then he realized over time, oh my gosh, he's a pirate. But how is it my two wishes came true? So he started to understand that the power in believing that he was powerful made him powerful. And then he thought, wow, this pirate thinks he's a banana tree. No, this pirate thinks he's a pirate, and he lied to me and told me he's a genie and accidentally gave me a gift of believing in myself. So he went back to the pirate and he says, I have a third wish. And he goes, oh, okay. My wish is that you be set free from thinking you're just a pirate. Because when you believe in yourself like you made me believe in myself, even though you lied, I was able to find love. I was able to save myself. And you are greater than a pirate, and I'm greater than who I thought I was. It's really about understanding that we are all powerful and that we are all genies.
Oh, it's a very powerful story. I'm thinking about that now.
Yeah. That story is my Once Upon a View series. I want to write that as a second book because the first book is Cinderella's Secrets. It's already written and published and it's on Audible and all that. Actually, we should give them the link for Cinderella's Secrets because I literally retold Cinderella and showed that the power and the magic came through her in the full plot of Cinderella. But as you saw, Aladdin, it's coded. It really wasn't about just being saved by something else. It was about the wisdom of caring about your power and where you apply it and understanding the process of where the value is in being of love, of being a partner, understanding where the true value is in being secure and safe and being one with your environment and understanding that the gift is in everyone.
So, wow. So this relates to the cartoon. Is that what you're saying as well? Because setting the genie free is basically telling the genie to believe himself. Right.
Because the genie was trapped thinking that everyone else gets to decide that he has to be a genie to serve and be a slave. And that, you see what I mean? So he was in his own archetype of not living his own life. In this situation, he was a pirate. He thought he's just someone that has to peddle and lie and, you know.
You should do this for all cartoons.
No. Well, these are fairy tales, and I've done it for Beauty and the Beast. I've done it for Sleeping Beauty. I swear to you, they're all decodable.
That's because it's going through your lenses.
Yeah.
Your knowledge.
But it's a bit of a coincidence that all the plot situations fit neatly.
Oh, that's true.
You know, so I think they are. I think it's a combination of finding a creative way to decode them by keeping the plot, but exposing a whole underplot that's much more powerful and meaningful than the surface Disney level, you know, where it's always someone else that saves the person.
Yeah. I like that. I like how you did these deep dives into the meaning behind something that I thought was so trivial. So you'll see George in the as a Pixar director.
Yeah. My dream come true. The Once Upon a View series.
I like that. I really like that story because when you are thinking about reinventing yourself, knowing that you are this all-powerful thing, that's going to be all right. I come from that juice, from that entity. Therefore, it will happen. It will all fall in place. I just have to trust it, know it, and forge ahead. Don't worry about the blockers. Just guided by intuition, just keep going. I like that.
Yeah.
Setting yourself free from your identity.
And I should have started the story with Once Upon a View, there was a young man. Because Once Upon a Time tells you that fixed events happened on a fixed linear timeline, and there they are, and they're not to be argued with. But Once Upon a View tells you that the way you view things will determine.
Yes, I like that.
The experience, the reality.
I like that.
Once Upon a View.
What a good wordplay. I like it. I actually like it because perspective changes. Very nice. Anyway, I thought that was really cool. I love these sessions because every week I'm learning to be braver and braver and braver to a point where It feels so fun now.
You know, I always kind of was sensitive to you calling them sessions because they're meant to be just us having conversations out, right?
Yeah, conversations.
But I really appreciate why you call them sessions, because a session implies there's a sense of transformation happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that quality conversations can be like sessions.
Yeah.
Where the parties involved feel a transformation because we are bouncing off each other ideas, stories, perspectives, and we're distilling meaning that resonates more deeply with us, and we're reframing from it.
Yeah,
you know?
and then putting it into action is where we're good at. You know, like we're not just reframing it and just goes, whatever. We're actually putting it into action as we go, you know, and I love that. And that's why I'm really excited about your journey, and I want to see you, you know, succeed in your journey. And I'm game for to see you get to where you need to go, because it's so fun.
Yeah.
You know, we know what it's like to reinvent ourselves. And that's the whole title of the podcast.
Yeah.
And to show that we're actually walking the walk. It's essentially what we're doing.
And walking I made up this saying ages ago, when you talk, leave enough room for the walk, because we can get so enamored and excited by the talk, you know, that we stay there. We stay talking.
Yes.
And the walk, the application, the implementation into the full experience of the talk is the dream. You don't grow mangoes to just never eat a ripe mango, or even a green one. Apparently, you know, Asians love their green mangoes. You don't grow fruit not to eat the fruit.
Yeah.
And so we're back to the banana tree, full circle. There you go.
Eat your bananas, everybody. It's full circle, isn't it? From talking to the walking. Yeah. But most people do the talking. I know 2 people loves to talk, still in the talking phases.
Yeah.
50 years old.
Yeah.
Never walked.
Yeah.
But we are walking as we talking.
Yeah.
And it's so fun.
And the only difference because remember I said to you, like, I outsmarted myself. I was talking too much, sick of not walking enough. And I have to say to you that the crossover was, you know what, that's it. Enough is enough. I'm going to really look closely at why I'm not walking, and I'm going to start taking steps. And if I fail, I don't care. I'll deal with it. And that's it.
The courage to have made that decision is amazing.
Fail forward. Yeah. Just be willing to, you know, find out that there are things you don't know, and there are things you don't know, and that dark room, and you're going to get bruised a little bit. But guess what? You're designed to heal. Yeah. You're designed to recalibrate. You're designed to learn and pivot. And if you don't use that part of you, where are you going?
Yeah,
nowhere.
That's the point, yeah. You're just going to... I like that. I love that. I love that we're both on our journeys. And I can see... I just love it. I just love to see the journeys, you know, as we are evolving. Yeah. And we're sort of encouraging each other to keep going, and supporting each other as well. Like, you know, with this stuff and, you know, with your stuff, you know, eventually it's going to be great, man.
Yeah.
If you feel like this resonated with you, or if you feel like someone could sort of learn from this, you know, feel free to share it with them and let them, you know, because it could really transform someone's life by looking at how we are going into this, you know, wholeheartedly in full humility, vulnerable mode, you know, and to bring people on the journey. I think it's really useful.
And look, subscribe to whether it's Spotify or any platform that you're on, YouTube. Just subscribe, engage. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions, anything you want to share, any topics that you would love covered, this, you know, and
we'll enjoy. See you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Ciao for now.
Ciao for now. Thank you for joining the Reinvent You Show.
And remember, don't take yourself or life too seriously.